here for your Sydney Swans.
Welcome back to A Bevy of Bloods, a fan podcast of the Sydney Swans Football Club.
So to all you loyal Swans out there, you just can't get enough of the red and the white.
Fluff up your tail feathers and settle in for a potentially biased yarn about all things to do with our beloved Bloods.
G'day there, Cygnets and Swanlings. Welcome back to A Bevy of Bloods. You're joined, as always, by the folks from Sydney. I'm Chris, and this is Jules.
That's right, you lucky loyal Swans fans. We are going to have a good yarn about how we put an end to the Essendon Edge for the season of 2024. But before then, remember, if you like what you hear, make sure to give us a like and a follow. Okay, let's kick things off with a quick game recap.
Right, last Friday night in front of apparently what was meant to be a sellout crowd at Marvel, our Sydney Swans defeated the Essendon Edge Bombers by 39 points with a final score of 15-8, 98 to 8-11, 59. Jules, first impressions, straight over to you. How was that game for you?
Look, it was really cool to string 2 wins in a row together.
Oh, yes.
Albeit against 2 sides who maybe won't, or definitely won't, I guess now we can say, feature in September. It's been a couple of months since we've done that. So perhaps getting some of our mojo back as we move into the business end of the season, which is pretty important. And I guess a key thing that I'd call out is we played 1 very good quarter against Collingwood and we played 2 very good quarters against Essendon. So perhaps everything's all moving in the right direction. So far, so good, I think.
Yeah, definitely trending in the right direction. I agree with that. That's a perfect setup. I think the first half, I was really disappointed. And the halftime review that I did with Sammy Boyle over there at Marvel was really around a fair amount of disappointment. Like, okay, we've just gone back to where we were last week first couple of quarters, which is exactly where we stood. And it was, we weren't really winning a lot in the contest in the air. We weren't winning a lot on the contest on the ground. We weren't winning clearances. It was a bit dire, but the third quarter in Essendon Edge style, they just buggered up like 4 different situations. They gave away a free kick. They kicked it straight into someone's arms. They did a couple of really bad options that got us into the game with like 3 or 4 goals. And then from then on in, the game, we just ran with it. And so we really got to kick that momentum going forward, as you said there. So a positive process, a positive step going forward, but a lot of Swans fans are nervous, Jules. I'd suggest that's the way.
Yeah, I'd say that, look, well, whilst I said heading in the right direction, I don't think we're thoroughly convinced, which is pretty fair enough. And I think we probably do need to address the elephant that's getting bigger and bigger that's sitting in the room, which is these starts.
There's barely enough room for anything other than that elephant right now in this room.
Yeah, it's a big elephant.
It's a big one. Yeah.
We've now just won 8 of 22, so 36% opening terms this season.
Wow.
That is 8
that's coming
of
first.
22. Yes.
Yeah.
And whilst the margin was only 5 points the first term against Essendon, it should have been a hell of a lot bigger if Essendon didn't butcher their many, many, many inside 50s. So I think we were let off the hook there.
Yeah, perfectly said. I think Essendon really didn't take their they take their opportunities when they had it. As you said, they should have been 20, 30 points ahead, I think, at halftime. And instead, we just were able to kind of put a bit of a sword to them at the end there and make a real game of it. The Bombers are just a funny team. I mean, I'm going to ask this question straight up, and I want to get your opinion on it. Honestly, where was Heppel?
That was a bit awkward, wasn't it?
What is it with that organisation?
Yeah. Culture, hey? That's kind of the question that I would have. I appreciate he's probably not their best player anymore, but I would certainly say he's probably not their worst either. And so to not include him in the squad, final opportunity to say goodbye to Bombers fans, he's been just so pivotal in terms of turning that club around, from where they were really in the scrap heap, the laughing stock of the AFL for so many different reasons. The way that they, didn't give him the send-off that he deserved, and maybe what that said to the rest of the group as well, and an opportunity missed perhaps to galvanise the team a bit and get them to play for him. I think it was, I think it was a bit sad really, him doing the lap of honour or what have you in his tracksuit before the game and taking no part in the game. I think was, from we're sitting as Swans fans who like to treat our legends, with the royalty, I guess, treatment that they deserve. It's it was an interesting watch as a fan for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, I know this isn't a Bombers podcast, so by all means, I know we will start talking about the Swans, but I think it just draws a really good line of where, as Swans fans, we're really lucky about the Bloods culture. And I know everyone drags on about it. I know it's been said a million times in different ways, but it does actually go from the top down. And if you really consider that if you're a young star player that's going to go through the organization and you're looking at the Bombers to be one of the most, iconic clubs in the AFL system, and you're looking at probably setting up with them, and that's the way they treat the best player, most consistent player, the player that's beloved by everyone in that club room, including opposition members. Like, I was looking forward to seeing him play his last game. You know what I mean? Like, even me, just as an AFL fan, was pumped about seeing that. And then to see him not being even selected and just being what his last game is going to be at the Gabba. Like, it's just, it reminds me that, remember that last game where Kieran Jack and McVeigh managed to kick a goal, when we said goodbye to those two absolute stars.
the three champions, and just seeing the rest of the players all lift. And that's why I do think it was an opportunity missed. I mean, I don't know if you caught Luke Parker's pretty nice tribute to Heps after the game, but I mean, Luke Parker gave him a better send off than his own club did. So it says a bit about them for sure, and it makes us, I think, even prouder of our club.
Yeah, it makes us feel that we're on the right path of things. Celebrate your champions when you have them. Celebrate them as much as you can, because they dragged your team through a lot of things. So anyway, so
absolutely,
where the hell was Heppel is a major question on a Swans podcast, but still, it just blows my mind. The other thing, just moving back into the game, one thing about the Bombers is they were smashes and clearances, and they're not that kind of tough team in the middle. And it really kind of concerned me until we got our game moving forward, until we kind of got ourselves that arm wrestle in the middle and started kind of winning there. It did kind of make me feel like there is really something going on with these mids. We're just not being able to turn it on from the very get-go. In having a chat with Hayden McLean, we asked him that direct question, and he said, look, everyone's working on their pre-game routine, like, what is it that we do so that we walk on the ground, we're ready to go, we're in full AFL mode. And I just feel that there's a lot of teams that are just a bit better at that because they know the Swans are a bit weak, and maybe they're just leaning on it. And a team like Essendon shouldn't have been that much more competitive in the first half, especially in the middle. I'm a little bit concerned.
Yeah, no, it's the Achilles heel is there to be seen, by everyone. And I don't know if you caught Coach Horse's comments after the match when he was asked about it, but he was almost a little bit cagey about being asked about the starts. Like almost like I'm sick of answering these questions. We don't know. We don't have an answer. We think it's many different things. And that, to me, I don't know, he tried to play it down. I'm assuming inside the four walls of the club, this is an issue that's not being played down because, yes, okay, we've got over the line against two clubs that are not going to be playing finals, but putting this kind of a start on the board against rampaging sides, we will not be able to get the job done. So something needs to be figured out, whatever it is that's the issue, whether it's pre-game songs or red cordial or something before they all go out, Red Bulls, whatever it is that we need to do to get them up and about, we need to figure it out and fast.
It is well documented that Blakey, apparently I think he runs the DJing in the room and he's a really bad DJ, has been said. So maybe we just need to work out what to do there in the song.
Maybe we need to send them a playlist, hey?
I like, a bevy playlist. There's a whole lot of fight
G
for
up,
right the
G
path,
up
bit of G up
songs.
music.
Let's go.
We spoke about Nick Skits a few episodes ago, a bit Nick Skits remix, Mix 27 or whatever he's up to these days. So I'm sure we can do something. But yeah, it's really something. And this is not going to fly for finals. So I think all of us have been really geared up to seeing like all of these, and to what we were discussing earlier, which is like how do we all feel as Swans fans? We're a little bit nervous because although we should be hammering these teams and really rolling into finals in full form, we're not. You can see the teeth in the gears slowly starting to catch a bit of grip, but it's just not from the beginning, and we really want to see that kind of kicking in from the beginning. So I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, to be fair, that whole first half was just ugly football.
Yeah.
It was pretty gross to watch, actually. Looking back at it, the Bombers recorded just 4 goals from 36 inside 50s. I mean,
God, that's so bad.
In the first half.
Yeah.
In the first, and it's just unbelievable.
Wild.
We had 3 from 16. So I mean, we should have been 6 goals behind, and then some. Yeah. So the fact that they let us off the hook like that, it's just something else. And I don't know if you can explain it to me, but it looked like we were playing in the wet under the roof at Marvel. What was the deal with that?
It's a weird
skill
stadium,
areas.
Yeah, I just don't know how I feel. The stadium, one thing I noticed is when I'm sitting there, because the lights are so damn low, because there's no roof, so you can't have the lights up high like they do at any other stadium like the SCG, et cetera, where the lights are coming from high up down. The lights are just above the bleachers, just above the nosebleed section. It's blaring into you. So if I'm on the ground, I'm 10 seats, 20 seats back or so. And I had to wear my hat really low to make sure it wasn't in my eye. So I just feel that it's the kind of place to conducively play really bad footy because it's just every time the ball's kicked in an AFL arc, it's just always going to get in their eyes, and it's always a bit of a shocker. And then I got thinking about that. I'm just like, well, what are some of the teams that play there in the reg that just have a bit of a shocker? Bombers are pretty messy sometimes. Saints are a bit messy sometimes. So I don't know whether I'm probably drawing the longest bow ever. But yeah, it's a weird stadium. I don't think if you don't play there very often, especially, I don't know, the lighting for me was just really shitty. Really shitty.
Yeah, right. Well, the first half was really shitty. So, but thankfully we found a way, as you mentioned, to kind of turn that around. All of a sudden came out in the third term with run and carry and speed and willing to take the game on, completely changing the whole complexion of the way that game was played. It really was a game of two halves.
Yeah, and I said earlier in second half, the way that third quarter kicked off and the Bombers just absolutely making a meal of every opportunity they had. One thing is you can say that's on the Bombers, which the Melbourne media, I think, have leaned on to be how bad they were. I think the other thing you can say is also the amount of pressure we applied just off the blocks really gave him a bit of a startle, and then that's basically where we're able to put up with the hammer down. So I think it was a bit of a combination of the two, but to see the team come out after halftime and then basically start a game in the second half the way you meant to start the first, at least that's something, and it's saying something. And to your point at the very beginning, at least we're playing 2 quarters really well rather than the one. So let's see where we end up. There were some notable great players throughout the game. I kind of felt Lloydie was really good in that first half. He was doing a lot. I felt Roberts was good across the game as well. I don't know what you saw as well.
Yeah, no, Roberts was solid all 4 quarters actually. The two players that really kind of kept us in it at the beginning was Braden Campbell and Caden Cleary. To be fair, they were the ones that showed probably the most amount of intent and willingness to run and chase and try and lay the tackles and of course hitting the scoreboard as well. So I think there were some of our more sort of unsung guys that really kind of kept us humming when our big guns were quieter at the start, for sure.
Yeah, I think it's and just a quick plug, I guess. We did interview Matty Roberts last week, so if you haven't listened, go back and have a listen to him. He's an absolute wonderful kid, and we gave him a fair bit of love on the potty when we were having a chat to him, and he really, not to say that he didn't deal with it. He didn't know what to do with that, like, which is a really sweet thing for someone who's just out there every day just working his ass off.
Yeah.
And for him to hear direct praise from just avid fans like Noddy and I, and it's important to me to make sure that he hears it. And I just wonder what that meant. But he went out there and played an absolute screamer of a game.
Oh,
so
he's been so good, and don't forget he's nominated for the Rising Star as well.
Yeah.
From the first round this season. So
right.
I don't think we will be the first or the last to pile on the accolades for Robbo, I think.
No, not at all. I'm so excited about him. I think he's just wonderful. He's 21 for crying out loud. Like, let's go. Like, it's just too easy.
Yeah.
Who else did you see in the game? There was some pretty grand play, and yes, Braden was fantastic. Who else was out there that you saw that was grand?
Yeah, I mean, look, Heaney turned it on. Again, similar to a few of the guys, he just came out of sort of a different player at a half time. He had 22 disposals in the match, but 12 of them were in the third term.
Yeah, right.
So it says everything you need to know about the turnaround, that happened in that third quarter. So he really, spun things in our favour in a big way. Errol Gordon, of course, pretty similar scenario from him. Really turned it on in the second half. And Luke Parker went from a guy that you were like, Luke who? Where is he? Is he playing? To all of a sudden being everywhere. In midfield, he was forward, he was, just electric. So, there were quite a few that really kind of, started to really sort of show up when it counted.
It's so funny how we just absolutely adore Parker for his consistency. And you put him in, and we've been on a fair few podcasts in the past. Our first one for this year, mind you, so go us. But together, but in the past, we've spoken about him so many times. Just the level of consistency that he has to the point where he doesn't get noted.
We just take him for granted. Yeah,
take him for granted, and then but now in an opportunity for him to just like roll up forward, kick three, going to go into the midfield and just dominate some clearances, like. And you really get a gauge of just how incredible he is. No matter where you put him, he just does the job. He can be good in the air, good in the ground, good in the tackle. And just his general leadership has been so good to have in the last few weeks. And it just goes back to everyone was saying, where the hell is Parker? Well, we know where he was. He got injured and then he knocked a guy out and broke a jaw. So, but for him to come in now and as you'd imagine, pretty healthy and without the entire
and fresh,
season,
right?
and fresh,
fresh. Yeah. It's he might be our golden goose.
The golden goose.
The golden goose. He's our secret weapon. Well, not so secret, but it's he's ripe, right when we need him to be, and he's obviously a contested bull as well, which we've been lacking a bit of, which I'm sure we'll get to later on. But he's a finals player, and coming into the where we're at in the season now, he's not going to miss a game. That's one thing for sure. He's in. Yeah.
Otherwise, Swans fans will probably start rioting. I think that's how we're all up to at this point. Look, going from one ex-captain to our new captain, Callum Mills, he was unbelievable. Dare I say, back to Millsy greatness, back to where he was before, just starting to find his feet as we're leading into finals there.
Yeah, he has. And look, I think Swans fans seem to have a pretty short memory about how good Mills was. And, there's quite a few people coming out, in his first game or so, it's just as he was trying to, get moving again, calling for his head and all sorts of things and how is this guy captain and just blah, blah, blah nonsense, really. But, he's perfectly poised now. He's got a couple of games under his belt. Similar to Parksy, he's fresh. He is an unbelievable captain. You just see him the whole time pointing, yelling out things, talking to the guys all the time. He's such a general down back. And I think we can all agree that he's going to stay down back, for the rest of the year. I know there was a lot of chatter about him potentially coming back into the midfield and what have you, but I think this game certainly showed us that that's his best spot, at least for us this year, I think.
Yeah, and I think we really we really need that kind of run too. Like the the it's just been he's just such a settled head. When he gets there, he gets the ball. You know, a good decision's about to be made. And it's something that not all teams are able, not all players are able to do. And especially when you're sporting as many young guys as we do, like we're really lucky that we have such a young group of players and they're all got good heads in them. So you got, Errol, we've spoken many times about his football IQ and his great skill set. Blakey, like just is still relatively young and still dominating these things. McCartan's still very, very young and still doing fantastic things. And you need like a good man like Matt Millsy just kind of hammering out there and just being a fantastic captain. And to your point, 2022 All-Australian, captain of the club, like one of the best players we've ever had, wearing the number 14, a lot with the captaincy, and you got a bunch of fans out there forgetting that he's actually as good as he is and consistently being that guy. It's a bit concerning sometimes. Would you read some of these social media outlets?
Yeah. Look, it's we're really fortunate that he's back at this time of the year because similar to Parker, he's a finals type player, and we need that maturity and those cool heads, as you just said. So, yeah,
there's more pieces of the puzzle to come together, right? So contested footy is
we need to talk about it.
We need to talk about it.
We need to talk about it, right?
Please.
Okay. All right, I've done a little bit of digging around, right?
Number crunching. All right.
Some number crunching.
Watch out, that abacus. Absolutely.
Which isn't my forte, but even I can understand these numbers, right?
Jeez, all right.
It's pretty simple. So we were soundly beaten by the Bombers in contested possession. We were down 18 in the first half alone. The Bombers had 139 to our 119 for the whole match. Now, that was below our season average, which is 130, in which we're ranked 11th in the competition.
Oof. Right.
So if we want to chat about what finals footy is underpinned by, contested football possibly is most important, if not certainly up there. So I don't know. What do you think about that?
I think when you start looking at the teams that we're going to be playing in these finals, all teams are built from the mid outwards. You got to win the football before you go a whole lot further. You look at Port Adelaide and their strong young midfield. You look at the Giants, who just have a contested animal run about them. You look at Geelong. You look at Brisbane Lions, arguably the best midfield running around on any one given day. You look at Western Bulldogs, as I say that, probably the best midfield going around with the Bont and Treloar and Ed Richards and Libba,
Oh, yeah.
The young boys doing absolute monster stuff there at Hawthorn, and then Carlton Blues, you don't need to say too much more than Paddy Cripps, right? So contested football is incredibly important to just getting your hands on the ball or at least stopping it from going the wrong direction. And for such a long time, we were so good at it. And
that was us, right?
That was us. That was
our bread and butter.
That's right.
That's our style of football. So I don't know. It's it's something that just along with probably first quarter. I don't know, whatever happens in first quarter lapses, shall we call them? Whatever that is that happened.
Don't worry about that elephant. Ignore it until next week.
Well, there's another elephant, and it's contested possession. So I think those two things for me are the things that we've got to find a way to improve. Otherwise, I don't think we'll go far.
Yeah. Look, part of that is, Grundy got a bit of a serving from Kingy this week. Not that I really listen to a whole lot of Kingy has to say. For the listeners out there, I actively don't really pay too much attention to anything that comes out in media. Like, I'll see it and I'll be like, whatever. It's all designed to just make sure you click on something, right? So let's keep that in mind. But Grundy's job on the weekend being absolutely hammered by two other ruckmen the entire game.
Nick Bryan and Sam Draper, right? Yeah. They gave him a bath.
They did.
Yeah.
And Am I concerned? Not really. Because if Grundy was going absolutely hammer and tong against two other big men at this time of the year, that would concern me more than him having a bit of a let up for the day. So it kind of gets us thinking, should he be rested for this week? Would that make some sense for us to roll into finals with a nice, freshly rested ruckman in his prime?
I think so. He's shouldered a pretty heavy load, goes without saying. And he's been enormous for us. And let's face it, he's a very vital, critical cog for us. So I think him spending the weekend at Coogee Farmers Market rather than at the SCG.
Yep.
You don't? Okay. I hope you have one nearby because he seems like a farmers market kind of guy.
That's actually, you've pinned him perfectly.
Whatever it is, whatever he wants to do, that's
wearing
entirely
a
up
bloody scarf
to him.
in summer for some reason, looking at it like an overly priced avocado, that has got Grundy written all over him. Yep, go on. Sorry.
Yeah, I think so. But look, he looks a little bit tired.
Yep.
And I just think if he's a bit sore or whatever it may be, let's get him right. He is an older bloke too. Let's face it, he's on the wrong side of 30 just, and he's a big boy carrying a reasonable amount of muscle and load and what have you. So yeah, I'm thinking that we give him a spell this weekend.
Yep, and get what we hope is the good lad coming straight in. Getting a bit of time out there, and that's not only it's probably for a couple of reasons in my eyes. Like, it's not only what he can do in the ruck, of course, and giving Grundy a bit of a rest. It's also what he can does up forward. So we know he has a bit of forward craft about him, old Laddams, and I think guys like a Marty, maybe taking a bit of a turn and just kind of getting outside of that forward line and maybe do a little bit more around the ground and get more hands on the pill might suit them well, especially getting some focus going into finals.
Yeah, no, I agree. Let's give the bad lad or the good lad another opportunity to show us what he's got, I think. And look, I think getting Hayden McLean a little bit more ruck time probably wouldn't be the worst thing either. He's been pretty quiet. Yeah. So, giving him, I guess, just a bit closer to the ball and giving him some opportunity to kind of, get his hands on it wouldn't be the worst thing either. So
he was pretty good in the contested marks on the weekend, I feel. I saw the stats only showed 2 contested marks, but I feel that he had like 7 marks out there that were relatively contested. So I think the stat people don't like him. He's not paying the right people. But, you got to pay the right people, Hayden. Jesus.
Yeah, maybe.
But at the same time, I agree with that. I think him kind of getting stuck into a little bit more would be good because last year he turned it on absolutely towards the end of the season. He got fired up. And so this season we saw a little bit of it. But as the whole
seen
team,
glimpses.
but as the whole team has kind of not really been firing, we're hoping that he can be one of those key pillars to do a bit of that.
For sure. There's another stat I want to call out as well, if you don't mind. Just while I'm playing around with my numbers.
Yeah, as Abacus is out, and
that's it. Yeah. So the tackling situation or the lack thereof.
There's the other elephant in the room. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, there's a few elephants actually. It's kind of like we've got a zoo. We've got a bit of a zoo before.
How many elephants does Timbuktu have even? I don't even know. Probably not as many as this, but yeah.
Look, it was particularly evident in the first half, but we had our equaled season low of tackles. So we had 41 in the game. And we only possessed the ball about the same amount of time that Essendon did. So we can't say it was because, we had no one to tackle.
That's right.
Because there were plenty of people to tackle. And again, we're 10th in the comp.
That was our game. So, that was the other game we had.
Again,
tackles,
yeah.
hammer people.
This is our identity.
We designed the pressure game. The more modern pressure game anyway. Like that was what was driving through this. And then like it's just eased up a bit. Like Rowie hasn't been getting the numbers that he had been other years, but I also feel that he's been playing a bit of a different role. Like he's playing a bit more of getting the ball, extracting it rather than just stuffing it. So I think guys like Warner have probably been asked to be more of a defensive player in portions of this year because we've needed that. But going into finals, we just need to see what is the makeup of this team to get that DNA back.
Yeah. Are we willing to do the hard work? And the inside 50 tackle situation is even worse. We're 15th in the comp. Yeah. We had 7 to their 13. Now, is this a lack of Papley situation, do we think? Just, the guys that are coming in are trying hard, but they just can't apply the same amount of pressure that Paps is able to do. What do you think?
Not got the speed. I definitely feel that's the case, because although we've got kids like Cleary, who did a fantastic job, and we've spoken about him, we are missing Wixie and Papley, who have been in that game and being the ones applying all that pressure in the forward line, that were a big part of our DNA. But we've missed them. We haven't been able to have them for injury and then suspension now, with Sammy Wicks out for 4 weeks. So it probably is, but it doesn't necessarily help, because we've gone so tall up there that we don't necessarily have that speed on the ground as well. Like, we're not carrying as many mid-size or small size. We're carrying a lot of big boys. And as we all know, big boys, big levers, they don't run as quick, unless you're Tim English, and apparently you can run really, really quick. But everyone else is not as quick. So, yeah, so I'd say so. I think that's a pretty good run there, Julesy.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, there's still a lot of good things. We did win the game, so there are some stats that are in our. We need to remind ourselves we did win the game, so we are doing a lot of good things.
There, it didn't matter.
Yeah, that's right. No. So look, we managed. I guess a real positive from our side of things was that we were very comprehensively beaten in the set of clearances, 7-2 in the first half, and we managed to square that away 13-all by the end of the game. So that was a pretty good turnaround, and our offensive talent. Our ability to score was very evident, in the third and fourth terms. So we've got a lot to love, but an old saying that I always like to revert to is hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard.
No, that's lovely. Wow.
So we've got to be willing to do the dirty work to, then be able to sing our praises when we take the ball forward and, are able to capitalise. So I think that's going to be our motto as we move into finals. Let's bring the hard work, fellas.
Yeah, bring hard work, get yourselves back in there. I think and to your point, I think a lot of the time the team has been dependent on some really lovely skills, playing beautiful football and
gorgeous football. Yeah,
gorgeous football.
Beautiful left footers, so many exquisite.
Yeah, they're great when it works, but
That's
when
right.
it doesn't work, you got to get dirty. And I think we haven't been willing to get dirty on certain occasions. And I think having Parker back is really important for us to remember that. Remember how it feels like to get nice and dirty and to lock that game up when it's not going your way. Look, to your point, we do have things to celebrate.
We do, absolutely.
We have locked up, bar the most insane results ever. We've locked up the minor premiership. So it's been a really fantastic season. It's limped over towards the end there. A lot of nervous Swans fans.
There's a few stutters just in the last little while, but there's still been a lot to celebrate. So
absolutely, and it's going to be. It's this weekend of football is going to be really, really fantastic. There's a couple of games that's just going to determine the top 4 and definitely the top 8. The last, I think, 6, 7, 8. 9, 10 will have an opportunity to get in, or albeit a bit ordinary, depending on what's going on. Seeing Hawthorn in there is a bit random, but look, I want to say I do want to see GWS come second.
Okay, me too.
And before everyone else on this, there's a lot of, especially Swans fans, and particularly some Melbourne Swans fans, flip their absolute lid at me.
Yeah, it's a sensitive one for some reason.
It is.
Yeah.
But I particularly want it because I live in Sydney and I want to see more finals football. And we don't necessarily get to watch a whole lot of finals football if it's only the Swans. At least we've got 2 teams. And it's not like it's Melbourne when you've got
we're the only state outside of Victoria that's got 2 teams.
Take that. That's
right. New South Wales AFL is alive and well.
alive and well, you'd hope. But it all comes down this weekend. I think, what have I written down here? So Freo needs to beat Port and GWS beats the Bulldogs in order for GWS to lock themselves up into that second place. I think Freo can beat Port and it comes down to results or something. I don't know. I'm not going to do the maths, my abacus. I left it at home. This is about right. So yeah, for that reason, I wouldn't mind seeing them up there. Anyone... Thoughts you have about the top 4? Anyone you don't want to play at this point, I guess?
Look, I think there's been a few mentions around nobody wanting to play Port so soon after our last meeting, which I totally get. Just in case there's any PTSD remaining from that.
There's a fair bit of PTSD within the fans. God forbid, like how the team's going.
Seriously, well, I mean, it's got to have an impact, right? If you lose by over 100 points, there's memories. There's memories that are ingrained there that haven't had a lot of time to heal. So I'm gonna say they're my number one. I don't want to face. Out of the current top 4, I don't want to play GWS for the reasons you've just mentioned. I prefer that to be a standalone game and have GWS have their own opportunity to lock their spot away by winning a qualifying final. So I'm going to go with Geelong is my preferred option, which again is probably counterintuitive because we've also had some bad times with them.
PTSD with the old Geelong Cats.
Just a little bit.
Don't know what you're talking about.
But I think at the SCG it is different. And I don't know, that's probably... Yeah, I don't want to play any of them really. I'd prefer to play somebody else. But that's the the beauty, I guess, of finishing top 4 is you play the best teams. So I don't know. What about you?
I'd say the same thing. I'd say probably the Cats would be the team that I'd be happy to play. And I think I'm 100% optimistic always. It's actually a problem, but it's a good problem sometimes. But I want to see us just come forward and play the Cats and this like slightly older team with all the experience that is driven and camaraderie between them, and just go out there and just hammer the Cats at home. I want to see.
It'd be really satisfying. Yeah,
absolutely, and that's what I want to see. I want to see that absolute drive from the team. I want to see them play themselves in the form by playing an old foe. That'd be fantastic. We do have one more game before that happens, of course. We do. Yeah, what's the old adage? 1 week at a time. 1 week at a time, apparently.
1 week at a time. Yeah. So, yeah.
But, I mean, we've got the Crows at home this weekend, Saturday, which is great because I'm back and I can go watch that. And I don't know. It's how much do we draw on this game, Jules? Like, what does the success look for you? Like, if we win the game or lose the game, nothing happens to the ladder. I think for me, it all comes down to who we rest along the way and whether we rest them. Because, of course, I think it was when when old man was looking after Freo when he rested like a dozen players or something. Of a nothing game, and so they put in the bye week before the finals.
That's right, to try and stop people doing that and having a lackluster last round. Well, it's going to be interesting because Adelaide don't really have anything to play for. Except to beat us, which I'm sure they would love to do given what happened in the corresponding round last year. So I mean, for us, I don't think we want to drop another game. We can't really tinker with the form line too much. We're not in a luxurious enough position to do that. So I think we'll only rest what's necessary. And judging from what John Longmire said today, it's a very fine balance between resting who's sore and people having an unnecessary amount of time off. I think it'll just come down to really who needs it, who needs the rest, which, as we mentioned, Grundy and probably Will Hayward are the two that I'm really thinking about. So
let's see where the game ends up. I'm just pumped basically to be back at the SCG and get a bit of hopefully sunshine football going on and just have a single game of our team just playing well. I just want that. That's all I want for Christmas. I mean,
Yep.
We'll see. Christmas is a long way
Christmas
away.
in September. That's all we
Christmas in
want.
September. Let's just get through it, and then finals kick in. So let's really get on from there. Jules, anything
We need
else?
to do the Bob, mate. We need to award. We need to give some points.
Give
We
points.
know,
We almost forgot
the
about
illustrious Bob
Bob.
medal.
The Bob medal, of course, our equivalent of the Bob Skilton medal. Give 3, 2, 1 points out to each player as it goes to every single game this season. Now, over to you. 3, 2, 1.
Okay. All right. Well, look, a lot of discussion around it, as there always is, given the illustriousness of this award. So we've gone 3 votes for Heaney.
Yes.
Which we're going to have to get used to hearing, can I just say, as we move into award season. Hopefully it doesn't become very awkward. Heaney 3 votes. But anyway, we won't go into that. He had 3 goals, 22 disposals, 12 contested possessions, 2 tackles. He was the barometer, really, in that third term. As I mentioned, he had those 12 disposals and a goal in the third term and just turned it on in a pretty big way. So he was awesome. Anything particular from Isaac that impressed you?
I mean, just to what we said earlier, I think just him being the driver of the game when we really need to get going and turn the screws in, and he's the guy. He did the same thing. He had the absolutely blistering game again, fourth quarter against the Pies, and he did the same thing in that third quarter against the Bombers. So I think he's got a body of work that you can just trust, and he's the kind of guy that does it. 2 points then.
2 points.
Yeah.
Yes, Errol Goulden, 25 disposals, 64% efficiency, 6 clearances. So he was in the middle a fair bit, right? In Chad's absence, he really stepped up. 8 inside 50, 7 score involvements, 4 goal assists, and just over 500 metres gained. So another pretty stellar effort from him.
A fantastic game, and to your point there, the centre bounce attendance. I've been on this potty a fair few times, been a bit critical of using him too much in the middle. Of course, it's very different this week. Of course, Warner being away, and also it made a bit of sense, as I said earlier. Like they're not as hard in that middle, so having Errol in there was quite good, and he really showcased himself here. But I mean, even in the middle, the guy had 25 touches, 20 of them kicks. With 63% centre bounce attendance. So just say it again for everyone at home. He was basically in there for 2 out of every 3 stoppages, and he had 20 kicks over 25, so only 5 handballs. This guy's an absolute monster. But really, really.
Yeah, and his kick to Isaac in the fourth term in the pocket.
Yeah.
What? I mean, honestly.
Perfectly weighted.
Oh.
Yeah.
Just thread the needle.
Yeah. Who was that behind? Was that, I can't remember who the big man was behind Heaney, but he did it. I think it might have been Grundy, but he did a great job of just basically making sure it wasn't a 2-on-1 for Heaney. So
he really did. Yeah,
little things like that.
He helped out, but God, that was just he's just seriously gorgeous. And then the last vote, which could be controversial, I don't know. There's the one vote is, I mean, God, I've written 10 players' names down.
That's the problem with the 1 pointer. We've spoken about the system, and we've gotten a lot of good suggestions as well from the fans of how we do it, but we're sticking with 3 to 1 for now. Go. It's one's
all
hard.
right.
Yeah.
So look, I'm gonna put my case out for Millsy.
What? No, that's fair. That's fine. That's okay.
Because he played down back, right? And he, from my perspective, he changed the way that our defence looked. He was unbelievable. 26 disposals, 88% efficiency, 9 contested possessions and 10 intercepts, match high. So 1 vote goes to Millsy.
It's a pretty solid 1 vote. I'd say nailed it in. Other names out there, of course, Braden had a cracker a game. Even Cleary would have been his name up there. Matty Roberts had half a point from me. But, really, 3, 2, 1, Heaney, Gordon, Millsy. Those are the names we also need to see picking up in the finals. So definitely like to see them up at the pointy end of the Bob medal, which is where we want to have them. come finals. So good to see
That's
Mills back
right.
in there.
No, for sure. And shout outs, to Parker, as we mentioned.
Absolutely.
He was everywhere, and he does the ugly grunt work at the coalface and then distributes. And I think that's going to be his spot mostly, I hope, as we work through the next few weeks. He's a calming influence in the middle. He does, the hard stuff that a lot of other players can't or won't do. A bit of speculation about him this week. Did you hear about this?
Yeah, look, so the speculation is that he is putting his name forward to a trade to another team. I don't, for the life of me, believe any of this. This reminds me of when apparently Buddy was going to go to the Gold Coast for like one season, but this was announced through like the Weather Channel or some obscure thing through Brisbane. I remember it just being stupid. It's Parker also did. If you remember, we kind of lost out in Dawson because Parker got that big deal as well because the money wasn't necessarily there.
Right.
I think Parker's just got a good manager. He's just doing the right things to make sure that he gets the coin and the deal that he.
But he's
needs.
contracted for next year, right?
Yeah, so it's. I don't see anything here. I think he wants an extension. So that's me personally.
Yeah. Look, he's well and truly sealed his spot. I think it means bad things for our recruit from Collingwood, Taylor Adams.
It does. Yeah.
It's hard to see him in the side with Luke Parker in there. They do a pretty similar role, and Parker is better at it.
Absolutely, yeah.
In my opinion.
No doubt about that. Yeah, I think it's nice to have Adams as an option because having a good head and experienced player like that coming to finals is absolutely going to pay its worth in gold. Just in the locker room, even so. He's definitely got a part to play, but yeah, I agree with you. Like Parker just takes over. There's no doubt about that. I dare say there's not a single person in the world that would disagree with that. So
yeah, 100%. And another shout out to JJ, James Jordan.
Locking blokes down.
Seriously,
Hadlock option. Yeah.
Merritt who?
Yeah, who was he playing? He might have been next to Heppel on the field. Fucking Heppel, seriously. Play your champions, Bombers. For
seriously,
sake.
yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah, no, he silenced Merritt.
Yeah.
Merritt was, as you mentioned, who?
Where?
And he won quite a significant amount of his own ball as well and still had an impact. So, hats off to JJ doing God's work.
Doing the JJ
which
work.
can be thankless at times.
Yeah.
So
it's good to see him getting the accolades across the board. Like people are recognizing that when he does it. So he's been a little bit away. He hasn't quite been that kind of lockdown bloke. I think when he's been playing more in the wing, he's not expected to, but he's at his best when he's running around close to the footy, getting his own football and shutting blokes down. So
no, for sure.
Another one.
Yeah.
All right. Look, it's a bit of a long episode, so we better start rolling this up. Any last minute things from you before I talk about the AFL dubs?
Oh, look, I think it's just us all taking a moment to say how good.
How good?
Like
good
we are at the moment just on the cusp of sealing the minor premiership. These things do not come around every day. It's our 10th time in AFL VFL history that we would have sewn up a minor premiership. And this has been the longest season, as we know, of all time. So it's tough and there's been peaks and troughs and all sorts of things along the way. But I think we all just need to take a moment to, as we go into the last game of the home and away season, to just say, this is brilliant.
That's football. It's such a beautiful thing. It is fun when your team is up and down. Of course, it's better winning. We all know that. There's a lot of Swans fans out there that remind us that when we're not winning, they're just about to start lynching the entire team. But that's just footy. And this season has had its challenges for everyone emotionally, just as much as no doubt the players are going through. But it's lock it in and oh my! Remember round 0? That happened. That was a thing this year.
Yeah,
that's how long ago this was. Yeah, this has been the longest season. It's been really long.
Felt really long. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's another season's kicking off. The season goes on and on and on for good things. AFLW is kicking off.
Yeah, cool.
We did a great little pre-season potty with our own Jen, who's joined Potty with us. She's had a men's episode, she's done the women's, she's going to hang us through the women's. She is a veteran of the VFL, very, very highly qualified.
We are so lucky to have her, can I just say?
Seriously. There's few people
Thanks,
in
Jen.
VFL Dub that know as much as she does. Like, she's
Yeah.
unbelievable. So I'm really looking forward. We actually got a couple play interviews coming along our way, which is really, really fantastic.
Unreal.
Not only in the AFLM, the men's, also in the women's. So keep your eye out. So if you haven't listened to the episode, again, first game is the 30th of August. Make sure you get your tickets if you haven't already. It will sell out. It will sell out. It will sell out. Make sure you get them. But have a listen to that in your spare time, and then just get pepped up for the next season. That's about all I had to say there. Well, that does bring us to the end of the episode. So thank you so much for listening in. As always, if you like what we do, or if you just want to show a bit of appreciation for some other Swans fans running out there and doing some funky stuff, please make sure you give us a like and a follow. It is very much appreciated. Oh, one last thing before I head off. I actually met up with another podcast, being the Rookie in Red and White. So Rookie in Red and White. They do another podcast for the Sydney Swans. They are brilliant. It's a really unique approach to it. It is Stephen's partner, Adet, is actually just learning how to become a Swans fan. So he talks through some of the history, he goes through some of the process, he talks about some of the players, he gives us some homework about particular terms of AFL. And to me, with a partner that doesn't necessarily live and breathe AFL like we necessarily do, Julesy, it's a really fantastic listen. And we got to meet up with them. They're brilliant, lovely, lovely, lovely people, Stephen and Adet. So please, if you are interested in getting a little bit more Swans media out there and supporting your people out there doing Swan stuff, go out there and give them a follow as well. Rookie in Red and White on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and all where the podcast stuff. They are very much worth going. Jules, we'll see you on Saturday.
It's been a pleasure. Yeah.
As always, love ya. Let's get on with this game. Let's get this done. We'll see you at the SCG this Saturday. But until then, up the Bloods.
The Bloods.
And can you
Swannies.
Swannies.
Woohoo!